The giant crystal hall of the Galactic Council had never shaken like this before. Deep in space, hanging between three burning stars, the massive station trembled as something big approached. Warning lights flashed red across every control panel. The alien beings inside looked at their screens with wide eyes and open mouths. 12 ships were coming toward them. But these were not the clean, bright vessels that usually visited the Council. These ships looked broken. Their metal hulls had huge holes torn through them. Bright gases leaked out into space like blood from wounds. Strange lights flickered. Along their sides, where weapons still glowed hot from recent use. Admiral Tae-min Kim stood on the bridge of the largest ship. His uniform was dirty with blood and oil. His face was tired and hard. Behind him, Captain Hyojin Park watched the communication screens as panic filled the alien voices coming through the speakers. The Council had never seen humans before. Earth was just a small world far away that most aliens thought was full of simple creatures who could barely fly to their own moon. The proud Velkari beings had bodies made of living crystal that caught the light like diamonds. The ancient Threnodi looked like floating brains in glass tanks, their minds older than most stars. The strong Corvan Empire warriors stood tall in their black armor, muscles bulging under metal plates. All of them stared at the damaged human, ships with shock and fear. Council. Prime Thiska was the oldest of the Threnodi. His brain had been alive for thousands of years. He had watched entire civilizations grow up and die. He had seen wars that lasted centuries and peace that lasted longer. But now, for the first time in ages, he felt something he had almost forgotten. He felt afraid. The human ships sent a message. It was short and simple. They wanted to talk to the Council right now, not tomorrow, not next week, not after filling out forms and waiting for approval like everyone else had to do. Right now. "This is impossible," said Chancellor Vex Thul of the Corvan Empire. His voice was deep and angry. "No one comes to the Council without permission. No one demands immediate audience. These creatures must wait like everyone else." But the human ships did not wait. They moved closer to the station. Their weapons were still warm. Their hulls were still bleeding air into space. Whatever had happened to them was recent and terrible. "Sir," said one of the Velkari communication officers, her crystal body flashing nervous colors. "They are not asking for permission. They are telling us they are coming aboard." The docking bay doors opened with a loud grinding sound. The human ships moved inside like wounded animals seeking shelter. Steam rose from their hot metal hulls as they touched the cold air of the station. The sound of their engines was rough and broken, like the growl of a dying beast. Admiral Tae-min Kim walked down the ramp of his ship. His boots made heavy sounds on the metal floor. Behind him came more humans. They all wore the same dirty uniforms. They all had the same hard look in their eyes. Some of them had bandages around their arms and heads. Some of them limped as they walked. The alien guards in the docking bay stepped back. They had never seen creatures like these before. The humans moved like soldiers who had been fighting for a long time. Their hands stayed close to their weapons. Their eyes looked at everything, watching for danger even here in the safest place in the galaxy. Captain Hyojin Park carried a small device that beeped softly. She was tracking something. Her fingers moved over the controls with quick, sure movements. Whatever she was looking for, she had not found it yet. "Where are they?" she asked Admiral Tae-min in a quiet voice. "Still out there," he answered. "Still running, but they will be back." The Council guards tried to form a line to stop the humans from leaving the docking bay, but Admiral Tae-min just walked forward. He did not push. He did not shout. He just walked, and somehow the guards moved out of his way. There was something about the humans that made even the bravest aliens step aside. News of the arrival spread through the station like fire. In the great meeting halls, alien diplomats whispered to each other in 100 different languages. Who were these creatures? Where had they come from? Why did their ships look like they had been through hell? Council Prime. Thiska floated, in his tank, his ancient brain working hard to understand what was happening. In all his long life, he had never seen ships arrive at the council looking like these did. The damage was fresh. The burns were new. These humans had been in a fight recently, and it had been a big one. "Send word to all departments," he said to his assistants. "I want to know everything about these creatures. Where they come from, what they want, and what kind of weapons can do that much damage to their ships." But deep down, Council Prime Thiska already knew that whatever the humans wanted to tell them was going to change everything. The old brain that had seen so much history could feel it. A new chapter was beginning, and it was going to be written in blood. The humans kept walking through the corridors of the station. They did not ask for directions. They did not wait for guides. Somehow, they knew exactly where they were going. Their heavy boots echoed through the halls as they marched toward the great assembly chamber, where the most powerful beings in the galaxy would soon learn why the humans had come. Behind them, their broken ships sat in the docking bay like silent warnings. The metal was still warm. The weapons were still charged. And somewhere in the dark space beyond the station, something was still out there. Something that had fought the humans and lost. Something that was running away from Earth's children as fast as it could go. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human protection was about to begin. Commander Bora Lee led the human group through the long hallways of the council station. Her left arm was not flesh and blood like her right arm. It was metal and wires, a machine that had replaced what she had lost in battle. The metal arm sparked sometimes, making small blue flashes in the dim light. Each time it sparked, the alien beings in the hallway stepped further away from her. The humans walked in a straight line like soldiers on parade. But this was not a parade. Their boots hit the floor with the sound of an army that had seen too much death. Their faces showed no fear, no wonder at the amazing alien technology around them. They had not come here to be impressed. They had come here for something else. Behind them, alien diplomats whispered and pointed. The Velkari beings flashed worried colors through their crystal bodies. The Threnodi floated in their tanks, their ancient brains trying to understand what these strange creatures wanted. The Corvan warriors gripped their weapons tighter, though they did not know why. The great assembly hall was huge. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into shadows. Thousands of alien beings sat in rows that went up and up like a mountain made of seats. In the center, a bright light shone down on a small platform where speakers could address the entire council. Admiral Tae Min Kim walked to the platform. His uniform was still dirty from battle. His face was calm, but his eyes were hard like stone. When he spoke, his voice carried to every corner of the huge hall. "Honored Council," he said, and his words echoed back from the high ceiling. "We come seeking not trade, not technology, not membership. We come seeking justice for the 18 billion souls you failed to protect." The hall exploded with noise. Thousands of alien voices shouted at once. Some were angry. Some were confused. Some were afraid. Chancellor Vex Thule of the Corvan Empire stood up so fast his chair fell backward. "How dare you!" he shouted, his voice booming through speakers. "How dare these primitive creatures make accusations against the Council? Earth is not even part of our space. Your species is beneath our notice. You barely reached your own moon when we were already old." Dr. Su Jin Cho stepped forward. She was smaller than the other humans, and she looked more like a teacher than a soldier. But her eyes held the same hard look as the others. She touched a small device on her belt, and suddenly the air above the platform filled with pictures, made of light. The pictures showed burning worlds, huge cities melting under strange fire, entire planets being eaten away like apples being consumed by worms, giant creatures the size of moons moving through space, their bodies made of meat and metal mixed together. Wherever they went, everything died. The Devourers, Dr. Sujin said simply. Her voice was quiet, but everyone in the hall could hear her. For 3 years, they consumed everything in the Outer Rim, 18 colonies, 4 garden worlds, billions dead. The pictures kept changing. Families running from monsters they could not fight. Ships trying to escape as giant biomechanical creatures reached out with tentacles that could crack planets. Children crying as their homes burned behind them. And when we sent distress calls to the Great Galactic Council, Dr. Sujin continued, we received form letters explaining that our sector was not of strategic importance. She touched her device again, and new pictures appeared. These were documents with the Council's official seal on them. Form letters that said the same thing over and over. The Outer Rim was too far away. The Council could not spare resources. The situation was being monitored. Help would come when possible. But help had never come. The silence in the hall was complete. Not one of the thousands of alien beings made a sound. They stared at the pictures floating above the platform. They read the documents they had sent. They saw the 18 billion names of the dead. Council Prime Thiska's ancient brain worked slowly through what he was seeing. He remembered the reports from the Outer Rim. He remembered the meetings where they had discussed the situation. He remembered the votes to do nothing because it was too expensive, too dangerous, too far away. We were not aware of the full scope, he began. You were not aware because you did not care, Commander Bo-Ra-Lee said, stepping forward. Her metal arm whirred as she pointed at the floating documents. You had the reports. You had the evidence. You had the power to act. But you chose not to. Captain Hai-Jin Park activated another device. The pictures changed again. Now they showed refugee ships packed with human families, overcrowded stations where people slept on floors because there was no room, medical facilities overwhelmed with injured and sick people who had escaped the Devourers. 12 billion humans managed to escape the first wave, Captain Hai-Jin said. They came to Council Space asking for help, asking for protection, asking for somewhere safe to stay while their worlds burned. The next picture showed those same refugee ships being turned away from alien worlds. Council member species refusing to let human refugees land, space stations closing their docking bays when human ships approached, families with children being told to find somewhere else to go. But there was nowhere else, Admiral Tae-min said. His voice was still calm, but now there was something cold underneath it. Something that made even the bravest Corvan warriors feel uncomfortable. So they died in space. In ships that ran out of food and air, in stations that could not support so many people. They died while you discussed the legal complications of helping them. The floating pictures showed the refugee ships growing dark and silent. Emergency beacons that stopped transmitting. Bodies floating in space around broken stations. Children who would never grow up because the Great Galactic Council had decided their lives were not worth the trouble. 6 billion more. Dead, Dr. Sujin said softly. Not killed by the Devourers, killed by indifference, killed by bureaucracy, killed by your choice to do nothing. The hall remained silent. The alien beings looked at the pictures and did not speak. What could they say? The evidence was clear. The documents were real. The death toll was accurate. So when the Devourers finished eating our colonies and turned toward Earth itself, Admiral Tae-min continued, we knew we could not count on the Council for help. We knew we were alone. The pictures changed one last time. Now they showed Earth surrounded by massive alien creatures. The Devourers had come to finish what they started, to eat the last human world and wipe out an entire species. What happened? Next, Admiral Tae-min said, looking directly at Council Prime Thiska, is why we are here today. Captain Jin Wuhan stepped forward. His face was covered with scars that ran from his left ear to his chin. The scars were white against his dark skin, like lightning frozen in place. When he spoke, his voice was calm and steady, as if he was giving a report about the weather instead of describing hell. When the council ignored our pleas for help, he began, when no aid came as the devourers consumed world after world, humanity did what we always do. We learned, we adapted, and we fought back. The floating pictures above the platform changed again. Now they showed human ships, but these were not the usual exploration vessels or trade ships that most species built. These ships looked wrong. They were covered in spikes and strange weapons. Their hulls were painted black with red markings. That looked like teeth. We studied their bioships, Captain Jinwoo continued. His words were calm, but the alien beings in the hall began to shift uncomfortably in their seats. We captured their scout vessels. We took them apart piece by piece while their crews were still alive. Dr. Sujin Cho touched her device, and the pictures showed the inside of what looked like a laboratory. But this was not a normal research facility. Human scientists in blood-stained coats worked on tables where alien creatures were strapped down. The creatures were part machine and part living flesh, with tubes and wires running through their bodies. We learned that they could feel pain, Captain Jinwoo said, still in that same calm voice. We learned that they could experience fear, so we made sure they experienced both. The Velkari beings in the audience flashed colors of sickness and horror. Some of the Threnody actually backed their floating tanks away from the platform. Even the tough Corvan warriors looked uncomfortable. The pictures kept changing. They showed human laboratories where scientists cut open living devourer creatures to see how they worked. They showed experiments where humans tested different weapons on captured aliens. They showed rooms where humans learned to speak the devourer language by making their prisoners scream in different ways. "This is barbaric," whispered Chancellor Vex Thule, but his voice was not as strong as before. "Barbaric?" Commander Bo-Ra. Lee laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. Her metal arm sparked again, brighter this time. "You want to know about barbaric?" The devourers ate children while their parents watched. They kept some people alive just to hear them scream. They turned entire populations into food that could think and feel while being consumed. The pictures changed to show what the devourers had done to human colonies. The images were so horrible that many of the alien beings looked away. Creatures that had once been human changed into something else, but still alive and aware. Cities where people had been turned into living parts of alien machines, their minds trapped, but conscious. "We tried being civilized," Admiral Tae-min said. "We tried following the rules of war. We tried being better than them. But civilized species die when they fight creatures that have no civilization." Captain Hye-Jin Park activated new images. These showed human ships attacking devourer vessels, but not in any way the Council had ever seen before. The human weapons were designed to cause maximum pain and terror. They used viruses that turned the devourer's own biology against them. They had bombs that made the alien bioships eat themselves from the inside. Where we failed to reason with them, Admiral Taemin continued, we succeeded in making them afraid. Where we could not convince them to stop, we convinced them that every human world they touched would cost them 100 of their own. The floating pictures showed devourer ships running away from human vessels. The great creatures that had consumed entire star systems were fleeing like frightened animals. Their biomechanical bodies twisted in what could only be described as terror. High Arbiter Kelmarie of the Velkari finally found her voice. Her crystal body was flashing pale colors of fear and disgust. "But surely, negotiations, peaceful solutions." Commander Bo-Ra's metal arm whirred as she pointed at the Velkari leader. Her laugh was bitter and cold. "You want to know about peaceful solutions? We tried that first. We sent diplomats to talk to them. We offered them resources, technology, entire empty star systems if they would just stop eating people. New pictures appeared. They showed human diplomats trying to communicate with devourer creatures. The aliens listened to the offers, seemed to consider them, and then ate the diplomats alive while broadcasting the sounds across space as a message to other humans. They don't negotiate, Captain Jinwoo said. They don't trade. They don't make deals. They consume. That's all they do. That's all they understand. The only language they speak is violence, so we became fluent. The pictures showed human training, facilities where soldiers learned to fight like the devourers. They showed human children being taught that mercy was weakness. They showed entire human colonies being turned into weapons factories where normal families built machines designed for only one purpose: killing aliens. We studied every message they sent, Dr. Sujin Cho explained. Every transmission, every broadcast, every scream they recorded. We learned their psychology. We learned what they feared. And then we became that fear. The images changed to show human ships that looked like nightmare creatures. They were built to look like the things that haunted devourer dreams. Human soldiers wore armor designed to trigger alien panic responses. Human weapons made sounds that drove devourer bioships insane with terror. You turned yourselves into monsters, Council Prime Thiska said, his ancient brain struggling to process what he was seeing. No, Admiral Taemin replied, his voice still calm. We revealed the monsters we had always been. Humans are predators, Council Prime. We evolved from creatures that hunted other creatures for food. For thousands of years, we fought wars against each other with increasing brutality. We have always known how to kill. We just usually chose not to. The pictures showed human history. Ancient battles where humans fought with stones and sticks. Medieval wars where humans built machines to break down castle walls. Modern conflicts where humans split atoms to destroy entire cities. And finally, space battles where humans turned their violence against alien enemies. But when the devourers taught us that mercy was weakness, Captain Haya Jin Park said, we stopped choosing to be merciful. The final images showed what happened when humans stopped being civilized. Devourer bioships torn apart by weapons that should not have existed. Alien creatures running away from human space as fast as their damaged vessels could carry them. Entire devourer fleets abandoning their conquest to escape the humans who had learned to fight like devils. The great irony, Admiral Taemin said, looking up at the thousands of silent alien faces, is that we learned our most effective tactics from you. The hall was completely quiet. From studying how you ignored our suffering, we learned how to ignore theirs. Fleet Admiral Dong Hyun Kim stepped onto the platform. He was older than the other humans, with gray hair and deep lines around his eyes. Those eyes had seen things that no living being should have to see. When he spoke, even the bravest Corvan warriors felt cold fear run down their spines. What I am about to tell you, he said in a voice like winter wind, will make you understand why the Devourers are no longer a threat to anyone in this galaxy. The floating pictures above the platform changed to show star maps. Red dots marked where Devourer worlds had been found. There were hundreds of them, spread across the dark edges of the galaxy, where no civilized species dared to go. Each red dot represented a world full of billions of creatures that lived only to consume other life. The Devourers made one critical mistake, Fleet Admiral Dong Hyun continued. They taught us to track them. Every ship they sent against us carried biological markers that led us back to their home systems. They wanted us to know where they came from. They wanted us to be afraid. Dr. Sujin Cho touched her device, and the pictures showed human ships following these biological trails through space. Long, slow journeys to the edge of everything, where ancient stars burned dim and cold. places where the devourers had been breeding and growing for millions of years. What we found there was not a civilization, Fleet Admiral Dong Hyun said. It was a factory, entire worlds dedicated to producing more devourers, breeding planets, where they grew new bioships and oceans of living tissue. Nursery systems where they raised their young on the suffering of captured species. The images showed these horrible worlds, planets that were not rock and metal like normal worlds, but flesh and bone. Living continents that breathed and pulsed with alien heartbeats. Oceans filled with creatures that existed only to produce more devourers. Cities that were actually the organs of massive creatures. Captain Eugene Lee stepped forward. She was small and quiet, but when she spoke, her words cut through the hall like a sharp knife. We realized that what we were looking at was not really a species. It was a disease, a cancer that spread from world to world, consuming everything in its path. The pictures changed to show human scientists studying the devourer worlds from hidden observation posts. They watched and learned and planned. They saw how the devourers reproduced. They learned how their society worked. They discovered the weak points in their biology. So we decided to cure the galaxy of this disease, Fleet Admiral Dong Hyun said, permanently. What followed was not war. War happened between armies that fought each other with some rules and some honor. What the humans did to the devourer worlds was something else entirely. It was extermination. The floating pictures showed human weapons that had never been seen before. Viruses designed to attack devourer DNA specifically. Nanomachines that could tell the difference between devourer tissue and normal matter. Chemical weapons that turned living devourer worlds into dead rock. We eliminated 96.7% of their species, Captain Eugene Lee said, her voice calm and steady like she was reading a grocery list. The remaining 3.3% fled beyond the galactic edge. Our deep space monitors indicate they have not returned. Science Officer Min-ho Park joined the group on the platform. He was young and looked like he should have been studying in a university instead of planning genocide, but his eyes were old, much older than his face. We kept samples, he said in a voice that made the alien beings in the hall feel sick. Genetic material, behavioral patterns, biological weaknesses. Should they ever return? Or should we encounter similar species? The process can be repeated more efficiently. The pictures showed human laboratories where pieces of dead devourers were stored in glass containers. Scientists in clean white coats studied alien flesh and took notes about how to kill it better next time. Computers calculated the most effective ways to spread death across entire star systems. Council Prime Thiska's ancient brain struggled to understand what he was hearing. In all his thousands of years of life, he had seen wars and conflicts and terrible things. But nothing like this. Nothing so cold and methodical and complete. You destroyed an entire species, he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Commander, Bo-Ra Lee's metal arm sparked again as she gestured toward the images floating above them. We did what needed to be done. What you refused to do when it mattered. The pictures changed to show the aftermath. Devourer worlds that were now silent and empty, vast bioships drifting dead in space, breeding facilities that would never produce another creature. An entire species reduced to scientific samples in human laboratories. But how? Asked High Arbiter Kelmari, her crystal body flashing colors of horror. How could you do such a thing so completely? Captain Jin Woo-han answered, his scarred face showing no emotion. We studied how they fought. We learned how they thought. We understood how they lived. And then we designed weapons and tactics specifically to end all of those things. The pictures showed human soldiers in special armor walking through dead, devourer cities. The armor protected them from the biological weapons they had used. Their faces were hidden behind masks that made them look like the angel of death. We used their own biology against them, Science Officer Min-ho explained. We created viruses that targeted their genetic code. We built nanomachines that could tell devourer DNA from any other kind of DNA. We made sure that our weapons would only kill them and nothing else. Dr. Sujin Cho added more details that made the alien audience feel physically ill. We also used psychological warfare. We studied their culture and learned what they feared most. Then we made those fears real. The images showed human broadcasts sent into devourer space. Messages designed to drive their hive minds insane. Sounds and images that triggered panic responses in their nervous systems. Humans had turned the devourer's own instincts against them. The process took 3 months, Fleet Admiral Dong Hyun said. 3 months to end a species that had existed for millions of years. 3 months to make sure they could never hurt anyone ever again. Chancellor Vex Thule of the Corvan Empire tried to maintain his composure, but his voice shook when he spoke. Surely there must have been some way to stop them without complete genocide. Captain Hyojin Park looked at him with eyes that held no sympathy. Did you offer the devourers a peaceful solution when they were eating our children? Did you suggest negotiations when they were turning our people into living food? Did you recommend mercy when they were broadcasting the screams of human families across space? The Corvan Chancellor had no answer. We gave them the same mercy they gave us, Admiral Taemin said. We showed them the same compassion they showed our 18 billion dead. We offered them the same negotiations they offered our diplomats. The hall was silent except for the quiet hum of the station's life support systems. Thousands of alien beings sat in their seats and stared at the humans on the platform. They were beginning to understand that something fundamental had changed in the galaxy. A new kind of species had emerged, one that could and would do anything necessary to protect itself. The devourers no longer exist, Fleet Admiral Dong Hyun said. They are extinct. They are gone, and the galaxy is safer because of it. Admiral Taemin Kim stood in the center of the platform and looked up at the thousands of alien faces staring down at him. The great assembly hall was completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. The only sound was the quiet hum of the stations, systems, and the occasional spark from Commander Bo-Ra's metal arm. Now you understand why we are here, Admiral Taemin said. His voice carried to every corner of the massive hall. We did not come seeking your approval. We did not come asking for your permission. We came to inform you of the new reality. Ambassador So-Young Park stepped forward carrying a metal case. She was dressed in a clean diplomatic uniform, but her eyes held the same hard look as the soldiers around her. She opened the case and began removing small devices that looked like data tablets. The outer rim is now under human protection. Admiral Taemin continued. Any species, any empire, any force that threatens inhabited worlds in our sector will face the same response the devourers received. Ambassador So-Young began walking through the hall, handing the data tablets to alien delegates. The Velkari beings shrank back when she approached them. The Threnody floated their tanks away from her. Even the proud Corvan warriors hesitated to take the devices she offered. These contain our technological specifications, our military capabilities, and our territorial boundaries, she explained as she moved through the rows of seats. Study them carefully. Chancellor Vex Thule of the Corvan Empire took one of the tablets with shaking hands. As soon as he activated it, his face went pale. The information on the screen made him step backward into his chair. This cannot be accurate, he whispered. Captain Hyojin Park smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. Our sensor technology improved significantly while we were hunting devourers. We needed to track bioships across vast distances. It turns out the same technology works very well for mapping the locations of alien worlds. The data tablets showed detailed information about every major civilization in the galaxy. Human ships had secretly visited their worlds and mapped their defenses. Human scientists had analyzed their technology and found its weaknesses. Human strategists had planned how to defeat each species if necessary. High Arbiter Kelmarie's crystal body flashed bright red colors of alarm. "You have been spying on us? Infiltrating our space without permission?" Dr. Sujin Cho nodded calmly. "We learned the importance of intelligence gathering from our war with the Devourers. Information is the most powerful weapon. We made sure we had complete information about everyone who might be a threat." Council Prime. Thiska's ancient brain processed the implications slowly. "You have been preparing for war against the entire galaxy?" "We have been preparing to defend ourselves against the entire galaxy," Admiral Taemin corrected. "There is a difference. We learned that we cannot trust anyone else to protect human lives, so we made sure we could protect ourselves." Science. Officer Minho Park activated a new display above the platform. It showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy with human territory clearly marked. But the human territory was much larger than anyone had expected. It covered the entire outer rim and extended deep into what had been considered neutral space. "These are our current boundaries," he explained. "Any civilian population within these boundaries is under our protection. Any military force that enters these boundaries without permission will be asked to leave." Once. The implications were staggering. Humanity had claimed a huge section of the galaxy as their own. They had the military power to enforce that claim, and they had made it clear that they would use that power without hesitation. Chancellor Vex Thule tried to maintain his diplomatic composure, but his voice cracked when he spoke. "Surely you understand that the Council cannot simply recognize territorial claims made through violence. There are procedures, laws, agreements between civilized species." Commander Bo-Ra Lee interrupted him by transmitting data directly to every communication device in the hall. The sudden flood of information made alarms ring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed as thousands of alien devices received detailed intelligence about their home worlds. "These are the locations of your major population centers, trade routes, and military installations," she said calmly. "We are not asking for recognition. We are informing you of the new reality." The message was clear. Humanity had mapped every major civilization in the galaxy. They knew where to strike if they needed to. They had the capability to hit anywhere, anytime. The same force that had eliminated the Devourers now stood ready to protect their territory by any means necessary. Ambassador So Young Park returned to the platform after distributing all the data tablets. "We want to make something very clear," she said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who spoke for an entire species. "We do not want to conquer anyone. We do not want to rule anyone. We want to be left alone to protect the people in our space." Dr. Sujin Cho added, "But we also want everyone to understand that the galaxy failed 18 billion human souls. We will ensure it never fails anyone else in our sector. The choice of whether that protection extends to your worlds is entirely up to you." The alien delegates looked at their data tablets and saw detailed plans for human defensive systems. Weapons platforms that could destroy entire fleets, sensors that could detect any ship approaching human space, military bases hidden throughout the outer rim that could strike at any target in the galaxy. "You are threatening us," accused a Threnody representative, his brain flashing angry colors in its tank. "No," Admiral Taemin replied. "We are offering you a choice. You can treat human space as the sovereign territory of a species that has proven its ability to defend itself. Or you can test our resolve and discover why the Devourers are extinct." Captain Jin Woo Han stepped forward one last time. The Council had a chance to prevent all of this. When we asked for help, you could have sent aid. When our refugees needed shelter, you could have opened your worlds. When the Devourers threatened us, you could have fought beside us. His scarred face showed no emotion as he continued. Instead, you chose to let us suffer alone. You chose to let us learn how to fight monsters by becoming monsters ourselves. You created us through your indifference. The human delegation began walking toward the exit of the Great Hall. Their heavy boots echoed through the silent chamber as thousands of alien beings watched them leave. "Wait," called Council Prime Theskar. "What if we had acted differently? What if we had helped you when you asked?" Admiral Taemin stopped and turned back to face the ancient Threnody. "Then 18 billion humans would still be alive. The Devourers would have been stopped with minimal bloodshed, and we would all be living in a very different galaxy." "But now?" the Council Prime asked. "Now the galaxy has learned that there are consequences for abandoning innocent people to die," Commander Boras said, her metal arm sparking one final time. "And those consequences are permanent." The humans left the assembly hall and walked back to their damaged ships. Behind them, the greatest gathering of alien civilizations in galactic history sat in stunned silence. The old order had ended. A new age had begun. As the human ships pulled away from the council station, their weapons still warm and their hulls still bleeding atmosphere, every alien in the galaxy understood one simple truth. Humanity had announced, itself not as supplicants seeking acceptance, but as a power that would reshape space according to their own harsh lessons. The universe had changed forever, and at its heart stood a species that had learned the hardest lesson of all, that sometimes the only way to preserve civilization is to become more savage than those who would destroy it.